time. If I had known that was going to happen, I would have insisted on presenting a poem to introduce Techno-Peasant's poem. And then maybe we could follow that up with a next year dairy appearance with a Techno-Peasant poem to introduce a Jeffrey Lewis poem to introduce the Techno-Peasant poem. I think we should do this as a ongoing tradition.
Yeah!
That's Heather. I'm Jeffrey. And it's our first time in Sandinos, so we're a cool place. Cool place.
Okay.
Time is gonna take so much away, but there's a way that time can offer you a trade. Time is gonna take so much away, but there's a way that time can offer you a trade. You gotta do something that you can get nicer at. You gotta do something that you can get wiser at. You better do something that you can get better at, 'cause that's the only thing that time will leave you with. 'Cause time is gonna take so much away, but there's a way that time can offer you a trade. It might be cabaret, it could be poetry, it might be trying to make a new happy family. It could be violin repair or chemistry, but if it's something that takes lots of time, that's good. 'Cause time is gonna take so much away, but there's a way that you can offer time a trade. Because your looks are gonna leave you, and your city's gonna change too, and your shoes are gonna wear through. But there's a way that time can offer you a trade. You gotta do something that you can get smarter at. You gotta do something you might just be a starter at. You better do something that you can get better at, 'cause time is gonna take so much away, but that's the way that time can offer you a trade. And maybe that's why they call a trade a trade. Like when they say that you should go and learn a trade. The thing that you do doesn't have to be to learn a trade. Just try to get something back from time for all it takes away. And it could be many things, it could be anything. It could be expertise in Middle Eastern traveling, something to slowly sew to balance life's unraveling. You have no choice, you have to pay time's price, but you can use the price to buy you something nice, something you can only buy with lots of time. So when you're old, you blow some whippersnapper's mind, and it might be researching a book that takes you 7 years, a book that helps to make the path we take to freedom clear. And when you're done, you see it started with a good idea. One good idea could cost you thousands of your days, but that's just time that you'd be spending anyway. You have no choice, you have to pay time's price, but you can use the price to buy you something nice. So I've decided recently to try to trade more decently. do a tour with crummy pay, but if they make an offer to you, what you really gonna say? It's hard to play an empty room, it's hard to book a tour, so you pray some bigger band might say that you can come support. It might be a hassle, it's a tragedy, a parody, but how you gonna haggle when you know it's only charity? It's iffy at $250 at the best, but they know 1,000 others who would do the tour for less. You gotta understand the situations. A band means having patience for the vast humiliations. So you hit the open road and date a lot of crazy gravel. With good songs and decent merch, you always found a way to travel. But you find that booking tours can be more trouble than it's worth. Who'd see your unknown band when there's 10 million on the earth? So the bassist scans the web for any tour that gets announced on it. If no support's confirmed, that's when you take a leap and pounce on it. Drummers who are nice can turn cold-hearted, so you can't return them home owning less money than they started. The bassist has to grit his teeth and face it. Pay to stay in a hotel, no way, it's work, not a vacation. So after many sleazy years, you nearly have your own career, and you can book a little tour, and you can pick where you appear. Now you book the tour support, so of course, like chicken pox, every band you ever met all pop up quick in your inbox. And they want to know if there's support acts that are yet confirmed, and so you make them awful offers, cause I guess it's just your turn. I'm in it for the money, is that funny? I'm a working class musician with no funding in my country. I'm thinking at my best when I get desperate and find a way to make it pay, cause it's my job, not an investment. The sweet and sour secret of the trade, you learn to squeeze in every way to turn the lemons lemonade. I gotta find a way to make it work till I just cut so many corners I get dizzy from the circle. I don't wanna leave my home to do a tour with crummy pay, but if they make an offer to you, what you really gonna say? Hi Jeffrey, it's nice to hear from you. We have avails April 11th through May 15th. The tour starts in Omaha. You would be the first act of 3. The budget is $50 to $150 a night, but I'll see if I can up it a little in the major markets. But we can't have you on the bill in Portland, San Francisco, or Seattle, because you were just out there last month. Let us know ASAP, because we're announcing tomorrow. Oh, that's a terrible offer. Let me think about it. Yes. All the birdies in the wood aren't up to any good. They just chirp in every way as if they have all day. They get up around the dawn and just turn the babble on. Each nest from east to west has got to have its say. I wonder what the purpose of a happy little chirp is. Are they really unaware that none of us will care? Like speaking at a stone or a tree that falls alone. It's a dark and bleak cacophony of beaks out there. If I lived in a tree, or if I could flap a wing, I think that I would be a rather quiet thing. I think that it's absurd that every loud-mouthed bird seems determined to be heard to get the final word. The birdies up above never learned the value of keeping quiet just to listen. They don't think of all they're missing. They talk over each other, every kid and dad and mother. They think dissonance is pleasant, but they don't know it isn't. No rhyming, no rhythm, it's abysmal, their condition. Vocalize with all their power like they're in a private shower. But they're in public spaces that they share with other races. But if weather's good, forget it, they'll never shut their feathered faces. From species to genus, from kingdom to phylum, when you hear them try to sing, it's like a lunatic asylum. Disrupting nice surroundings with their shouting up and down. They make 1,000 truly clueless noises, and this is the sound. Never think of what would happen if they grew good ears like people and could merely hear like we do. They would say birds sound like chaos, wouldn't listen if you pay us. They'd apologize profusely and they'd finally obey us. They'd finally be silent, harmony would triumph. Their loyalty would go to us, and all would be melodious with peace in all these trees and birdies listening to reason. I expect that all would be much more respectable and decent, but they are insubordinate and they keep on rocking it. They don't stick a cork in it, they won't stick a sock in it. Like oil with a match in it, all keeps on catching. And here's all we'll hear if they all keep on hatching. always kind of like to be surprised. I don't want to be told what happens after I die. Death is like a mystery gift wrapped up in a box, sent from infinity and stamped with question marks. Everyone's got theirs and I've got mine. People shake it, weigh it, discuss it all the time. I tend to think there's nothing at all in it, but it's cool that I could find out any minute. And I whistle past the graveyard when I walk, 'cause I don't want to hear the corpses talk. I don't want to hear them grumble or complain, or discuss how much they want to eat my brain. And I always kind of like to be surprised. I don't want to be told what happens after I die. No, I don't want to hear the corpses talk. And I whistle past the graveyard when I walk. We'd really want to find out, but what a relief, we all die, so there's nothing to worry about. Some people say that life is empty, some say it's meaningless, and some say that that isn't such a bad thing if it is, and some say that I'm wrong and when I die I'll go to hell. But I'd be happy just knowing that there was a point, so it's just as well. People assume you'll suffer there, they just think you're selfish. If I was in hell I'd be glad knowing other people were in heaven, it would make it not so hellish. And I whistle past the graveyard when I walk, 'cause I don't want to hear the corpses talk. But I want black cats to cross my path, and I pick up bad pennies. I say if there's monsters in my closet then come and get me. But I always kind of like to be surprised. I don't want to be told what happens after I die. No, I don't want to hear the corpses talk. And I whistle past the graveyard when I walk. The old man who lives next door to me in New York City. We're flying back to New York tomorrow. We're at the end of a 3-week tour, and despite all of the craziness of being on tour and all of the driving and the unexpected circumstances, which are all part of the adventure, somehow the fun of going home doesn't quite bring me a sense of relaxation and catching up on rest as you might assume that it would, because I have this old man that lives next door to me whose bed is right, well, my bed is right up against like the wall in my bedroom, and his apartment is on the other side of the wall, and he screams in the middle of the night almost every night, these horrible shrieks, and I really don't know why, but this is a song called Sad Screaming Old Man. We'll just start together. Put me in, I guess. With walls that are weak, sometimes I hear it all if my neighbors would speak. But this recent apartment and bedroom that I got started out seeming decent, more boring than not. For 2 or 3 years, nothing happened at all. There was an old man next door that I see in the hall. He shuffled politely, wears an old suit, just a standard old geezer, a quiet old coot. He used to seem normal, but then all at once he started these nocturnal groanings and grunts. It's hard to get used to, and it gives me the creeps pretty much every night now. He screams when he sleeps. Dark night of our souls, dark night of our hearts, dropping down the bottomless hole. I just need to get some sleep. I don't know when I might begin, but I don't want another minute in this same old story. Purgatory, stop the torture, old man, and please don't be myself from the future. If it was a dog bark or a screaming infant, I'd probably be fine, back asleep in an instant. But picture me lying there alone in my bed, when this old man just lets out these screams near my head. And now every night at like 3 in the AM, I get woken up by this miserable mayhem. be my fate, a lonely screaming old man. Tell me, what did he do in his youth for this torture? And what if I'm him and it's true that he's me in the future? Dark night of our souls, dark night of our hearts, dropping down the bottomless hole. I just need to get some sleep, I don't know when I might begin, but I don't want another minute in the same old story. Purgatory, stop the torture, old man, and please don't be myself from the future. I'm used to apartments with walls that are weak. Sometimes I'd hear it all if my neighbors would speak. But this recent apartment and bedroom that I got started out seeming decent, more boring than not. But now it's like trying to sleep in a Guantanamo cell block, or a hospital hellhole for some horrible shell shock, or a medieval dungeon with sadistic conditions where some pitiful someone is getting whipped while you listen. And you know in the dark when your mind is just spinning, you get visions of weird things with no ends or beginnings. I drift off for a bit, then he's moaning some more, and I'm scared that he's me and I'm the him from before. I get some paranoid fantasy sci-fi scenarios, they seem dumb in the daylight, but for now I get there he goes. Dark night of our souls, dark night of our hearts, dropping down the bottomless hole. I just need to get some sleep, I don't know when I might begin, but I don't want another minute in the same old story. Purgatory, stop the torture, old man, and please don't be myself of the future. Well, you know, Jeffrey, it's true what you say. I once was like you, then I turned out this way. I lived my young life complaining love wasn't there. It was never enough to sacrifice for or care. And I once had a cat, and I had one or two pals, and I would go and hang out, sort of like that way you do now. But now all I can do is just scream in the darkness, the pain inside, 90 years empty and heartless. He who grows as an artist is a rose, brief and bloom. So you know you've already started off on the road to this room. I thought I'd get glory from war in the dark and the trench. Then I spent 40 years more in a park on a bench, and it's all existentially hopeless. Eventually you're dementedly shrieking like me, like you're meant to be. I am sent not as a warning, but as an acceptance. So accept it. It is already written. It is already happening. You are already here. A little story on the screen over here. As I wandered across the land, one Sunday I found a hand lying in a cornfield in a tangle. As red as the devil's it was, but it was severed, its crimson fingers stiff as if with anger. I kicked it with my toe, and it sprang to life, you know. It crawled like a red spider a few inches. It pointed to the east, as if to say, take me there, please. But I thought, don't pick it up, what if it pinches? So I grabbed it in a net from as far away as I could get, and off to the east we went, me and this creature. And when a road came into sight, its thumb went up and hitched a ride on a school bus full of Sunday school nun teachers. But when they got a closer look, they all grasped their holy books and said, that hand is obviously Satan's. So before we lost our lift, I implored them all like this. The hand is red, but what you said is quite mistaken. This is just a case of finding a new species unknown to science. To just crush it or to kill it would be stupid. But up one old hag thundered and said since I was outnumbered, the hand would have to die and she would do it. Down came her heavy book, and blam, the hand was squished like a giant cockroach and totally disgusting. Just like it was spring-loaded, bones, knuckles, and gunk exploded, and they all clapped at this supposed act of justice. But just then, there came a fuss from the driver of the bus, and we screeched to a dusty stop right there and then. And when the dust had cleared, we sobbed to see a monster like a blob. How many arms had it? 11, and hands 10. What happened next I won't replay, but suffice it all to say, when it was done, the beast and I alone were left to stand. It took a bus seat from the junk and attached it to its stump, so I'd become, excuse the pun, its hired hand. And the pay was pretty sweet. I had a house and food to eat, and all I had to do was help it murder people. It's great playing in these interesting locations, touring Ireland, having all this like Irish traditional music as the opening acts. It's one of the big pluses of Ireland touring.
God, that was fantastic. Do you guys have CDs, records, t-shirts, videos?
They've disappeared into the night.
Yeah.
What were they called? Casio?
Death by Casio. Oh my gosh. I didn't know what to expect. He came out with a horn. I thought it was just going to be some horn playing, but whoa, that blew my mind.
Life is a story, don't you doubt. Bad times give you something to talk about. The next time you feel you're all worn out, remember life is a story, don't you doubt. It only takes a day for everything to turn around. Love is a story they tell to you, but the way they tell it ain't quite true. You'll wake up one day and you're 32, you'll know love was just a story they told to you. Love takes a lot of work like everything else you're gonna do. And friends are just the people that you can talk with. Some can talk about that, some can talk about this, but everyone changes and forever is a myth. Friends are just the people that you can talk with. A lot of them will leave, but only a few you're gonna miss. And school is the place where I did my growing. They fill your brain to overflowing. They tell you this is all stuff you need to be knowing. School is the place where I did my growing. Just when I got to like it, it was time to be going. And the world's the place where it all happens. They draw lines on it and call it a map, and between every line's a different flag flapping. The world's the place where it all happens. 7 billion people all taking turns eating and napping. And animals are critters just like you and me. Only difference is that they don't worry about things that they can't smell or see. Animals are critters just like you or me. So we buy pants and deodorants and claim not to be. And songs are just something to waste your time. I listen to yours and you listen to mine, and before we know it, the day's gone by. Songs are just something to waste your time, but so is everything else, so do whatever makes you feel fine. And God's just a story someone made up long ago, before they had books and TV shows. I don't believe in him and I ain't afraid to say so. I know God's just a story someone made up long ago, but it's hard not to be superstitious despite all you know. And everyone's born and everyone dies. Everyone who has the time wonders why. The ocean is blue and so is the sky. Everyone's born and everyone dies. An old lady sighs and a new baby cries. And kisses are weird, but they can be fun. Instead of shaking hands, it's like shaking tongues. I wish I got to do it more when I was young. Kisses are weird, but they could be fun. And I hate going months and months without kissing anyone. And dreams are weird, but they can be fun too. They happen more often than kisses, it's true. And some I was naked and in some I flew. Dreams are weird, but they can be fun too. I wonder if you're dreaming about me when I'm dreaming about you. And now that you've heard everything I've said, and there ain't nothing new inside your head, if you wanna disregard it all, go ahead. Now that you've heard everything I've said, there's probably one or two things you could have been doing instead. And life is a story, don't you doubt, but at times give you something to talk about. The next time you feel you're all worn out, remember life is a story, don't you doubt. It only takes a day for everything to turn around. I love to see those British roads so free from advertising slogans, and I love those steering wheels that are the wrong side from my way. Cause I love each time I spot one British dog that's riding shotgun, cause to me a dog in a left side seat looks like it's driving down the highway. I love love green sheep fields with all edges, bound by old stone walls and hedges. In the sticks, the vibes, the charming mix of farmer, punk, and druid. That mist's more mystic than where I'm from, but on this list, the shock biggest to come is that one other thing I really love in England is the food. Some say Los Angeles seems strange to us, and New York seems so dangerous. Some say the Germans all are cold and the Parisians all are rude. Yeah, there's many stereotypes that we could set to rights tonight. And the thing that I love most in England just might be the food. I love that roasted mixed root grub, and I love those dinners in a pub. It's this cozy medieval tavern culture England's just chock full of. Some take them as low-class crap or cruddy, but I even like a bacon back or buddy. And I love that they're sold on the side of the road from some truck in a pull-off. I love that at most gas service stations, parking inside the supermarket, and Yorkshire pudding on gravy too looks sure good on forks or plates. I gotta drop a good word in this for a proper fish and chips with vinegar. And tikka masala is found in all the tiny towns, and that's not true in the States. Some say Los Angeles seems strange to us, and New York seems so dangerous. Some say the Germans all are cold and the Parisians all are rude. Yeah, there's many stereotypes that we could fight to set to rights. And the single thing that I love most in England just might be the food. Even though back in the UK and Europe they still are lacking maple syrup, I must respect that English breakfast options crush the USA. Cause for us men who don't like eggs, a US breakfast menu begs the question, what you gonna get except for pancakes every day? So the British breakfast calf, with options huge and prices half. That calf is a feed institution needed in America, I say. In US trips from Queens to Fresno, chips and beans, survey says no. Even though the Brits expect me to renounce how to correctly pronounce cafe. It's great there, don't forget it. Gotta give the Brits some credit. Don't complain just cause of rain or cause the press is often crude. Corroborate it if you read it. Don't care what snobs have ever said it. Cause the thing that I love most in England just might be the food. Without you, I got an old half cup of coffee I'm reheating without you. I don't go out cause there's no one I'm meeting without you. And there's no way I'd spray the shower curtain dries without you. Why try to rid the kitchen sink of slimes without you? Why stop that lousy cockroach while he climbs without you? I still can't finish Friday's crossword in the Times without you. She's out of town, she's out of town. She's out of town, visiting her mother. I tell the joke, but then nobody laughs without you. Because I'm like a tall tree with no giraffe without you. My stock has dropped so low it's off the graph without you. And it's only been 1 weekday and a half without you. So is it Friday or Monday? I'm not sure without you. All the days go by in such a boring blur without you. I hit the snooze 10 times before I stir without you. I get up but I can't recall what for without you. She's out of town, she's out of town. She's out of town, visiting her mother. I'll show you guys another little illustrated story here. This one will be sort of a hard-boiled film noir, low-budget detective flick sort of thing. Colored in entirely black and white and gray crayons, which took just as much time and effort to color as a nice full-color one, for only a fraction of the visual effect. It's probably the last time I'll make a black and white film. Sat in my office one night, while somewhere out of sight, someone up the street played a saxophone. My door slowly creaked open, and a dame stood there moping. She looked like a milkshake coating delicate stacks of bone. Actually, her looks were just a perk. I seriously needed work to pay off some gambling debts I was owing. As I stubbed out my ash, she threw down a bag full of cash, while through the smoke, that saxophone just kept blowing. I said, "Have a seat by my desk. If you're wondering, then yes, I'm for hire as a private detective." She said, "My name's Valencia. I'm one of the intelligentsia, and I've picked you because I'm highly selective. There's a man you must find, a criminal mastermind, known as the Black Postman for all the blackmail he's been sending." I said, "Lady, I've been through all this. Maybe let's just cut to the twist. You're really him, so why wait till the ending?" He said, "You're a smart private dick, but I'm hip to your trick. You're really her, so cut out the pretending." Just then, the saxophone guy, who was me in disguise, burst inside with the gun that the sax hid. I said, "Your blackmailing days are through." He said, "Technologically, that's true. No letter could arrive better than this black fax did." And so, rather timidly, I read the facsimile, and soon it was my goose that was cooking. It was a black and white photo of me alone, fucking my saxophone, at a time when I thought no one was looking. So, it seems I had failed, because now I was blackmailed, and he took off with the dough in the sack. I had only a few clues and hints, a couple of fingerprints. Valencia left, said she'd never come back. So I was still broke and in debt. But I wasn't out of clues yet, because I found proof there'd be one more unmasking. Because I'm her, and she's him, so it's obvious where I've been, and yeah, we made off with the cash. Thanks for asking. Here's another song about a neighborhood character that I somewhat dubiously look forward to encountering when I go back home tomorrow to New York. This is a song, another true story. This is called Scowling Crackhead Ian. Those of you who have spent time in the East Village of Manhattan may also have encountered my old friend Ian. I guess I'll just do it solo. Or you can try it. Scowling crackhead Ian, I can't forget your face. You were a foul human being way back on St. Mark's Place. A white thug when we were both poor, a life struggling for 1/4 more. In 6th grade, that's what you'd mug me for. A switchblade pressed up to my jugular. So I feared for my neck, safe streets were few. My nerves grew wrecked near to 2nd Avenue. I soon learned how to steer clear of a crook or a crew. And now I'm still here, and look, so are you. Forever you've been Crackheadian. It was your kid nickname if we spoke it. You were an insane human being, whether you ever did or didn't really smoke it. I know that tall, thin, bent over stroll, all sunburnt and grim since 10 or 12 years old. I guess yesterday's gone faces still indent our soul, and both our moms' places still on rent control. I was a twig small, sad sack, punier guy. You was as big, tall, and bad back in junior high. No sight of someone's face has ever been scarier. You'd come chase me from Street Fighter 1 or Space Harrier. Hello again, Crackheadian. I still can't forget your foul face. My fellow human being, I know we're both still planted on St. Mark's Place. We've lived our poor lives in close parallel. Within these 4 or 5 blocks we both know so well. You must have grew up near the former theater or a gross hotel. I'm sure you're aware of me here, but oh, I can't tell. It seems you never outgrew your little preteen rage. I still see you look so mean, though now we're middle-aged. I was eavesdropping last year at you laughing to tell about bashing some dude with a chair till he fell. I slipped fast by you, not wanting our eyes to touch, drifting past shops and awnings that had all changed so much. I've never known your life story, I'm sure it's rotten and tough, but how long before these rules for us have gotten old enough? You must have had it so rough, kid. Well, I wonder, forged by a tiny portion of love or fortune, those lightning or those thunder. You're a bad one, Crackheadian, a sad son and sunburned pink. But of all the best kids seen downtown in our preteens, it's just you and me left now, I think. How long till you notice? How long until you shake my hand? How long until we're old neighbors, last tribesmen of the vanished land? We never even did exchange names. You were an evil kid from Hades when we played these arcade games that made life great in the 80s. Me and Ian, ride into the night of an East Village train with that creams, trash, and vaudeville, and me and Ian. One, two, 3, 4. When you're by yourself in the kitchen, what's the point of all that shopping and cooking? Sitting and eating and cleaning, so much to do just to eat by yourself. And when you're by yourself in a restaurant, and you take off your backpack and your jacket, you put them on the seat next to you. When you're by yourself, when you're by yourself. And when you get up to go to the bathroom, you can't leave your stuff, you have to take it. You have to take your backpack and your jacket with you in the bathroom of the restaurant when you're by yourself. And the waitress sees you get up. She sees you take your backpack and your jacket. You have to tell her you're just going to the bathroom. You're not dashing out, it's just that you're by yourself. And she asks if you're finished with that plate. And she says you can leave your stuff here. You say it's okay, cause you've already got it. And you say leave that, I might still eat a little more. And when you're by yourself, walking after, and you could go home or you could keep walking. There's no reason not to keep walking. There's no reason when you're by yourself. Yeah, both of those DIs should be on. You could leave both channels open. Signal should be coming through there. Lay down every night, I can't get no rest, cause it starts spinning in my brain and then it's pounding in my chest. What if I've wasted all my youth? What if I've wasted growing up? What if I've wasted my whole life? Oh man, I feel like throwing up. It's an anxiety attack, an anxiety attack. I've got a bad case of the horrors and at night it comes. First I look back at my week, then I look back at my year. Then I'm terrified to speak, and I'm paralyzed with fear. And I'm tossing and I'm turning, and I'm going around the bend. All I see are all my failings, downward spirals without end. And I see horror in the future, and horror in the past. Then it's 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. at last. Cause what if I never feel grown up and die in a car accident? And what if I go crazy? And what if this time it's permanent? And what if I go broke and have to move back with my parents? And then what if I get cancer and I ain't got no insurance? All my days are moving faster and it's making me feel dizzy. How come I get nothing done, but always feel so busy? And I used to feel so smart, no, I used to feel so strong. But this just can't be how to live, I must be doing something wrong. Cause everything I might do feels like something else I can't. Then another day is gone and I just don't know where it went. I try not to hang out too much, try not to watch too much television, but still everything I do just seems to be the wrong decision. And I lay down every night, but still I can't get no rest. Cause it starts spinning in my brain, and then it's pounding in my chest. It's an anxiety attack, an anxiety attack. I've got a bad case of the horrors, and at night it comes back. Today I went to Major Matt's to remaster my old album, and on the L train in the morning I was pretty sure I saw Will Oldham. He was wearing the same sunglasses he had on stage at the Bowery Ballroom. Had he come to walk among the Williamsburgers of his kingdom, and like the burghers of Calais, will the sacrifice be demanded to offer up our dreams and beg for mercy empty-handed? As hapless in our hipness, crowded 5 to an apartment, we relegate our dreams to hobbies and deny our disappointment. Cause the Stones in 65 want total satisfaction, kid. But the Stones in 69 see grace in just getting what you need. But if that's a victory, then I'd hate to see what I'd look like defeated. Cause I know there are those who walk among us who seem to get their dreams unimpeded. Like today when I went to Major Matt's to remaster my old album. On the L train in the morning, I was pretty sure I saw Will Oldham. He was wearing the same sunglasses he had on stage at the Bowery Ballroom. Had he come to walk among the Williamsburgers of his kingdom? You might say now there's a guy who seems to have the world laid out before him. Or you might say he's just a rich kid or a fascist or a charlatan. But either way you say it, if you look in indie rock culture, you really can't ignore him. And even if at first dismissive, after some listens, you'll enjoy him. I was thinking this on the L train, intent on bursting my own bubble. How long should an artist struggle before it isn't worth the hassle? And admit we aren't fit to be the ones inside the castle. This quest for greatness, or at least hipness, just a scam and too much trouble. But that what makes one human being worthy of an easy ride. Born to be a natural artist you love or hate but can't deny. While us minions in our millions tumble into history's chasm. We might have a couple laughs, but we're still wastes of protoplasm. Like today, I was gonna waste some time and money to remaster some dumb old album. And on the L train in the morning, I was totally sure I saw Will Oldham. He was wearing the same big rock star sunglasses he had on stage at the Bowery Ballroom. Had he come to see the strife here in the gutters of his kingdom? Or us noble, starving artists are striving hard to feed our egos? Our mothers like our music and our friends come see our shows. And if our friends become successful, we'll consider them our foes. Go home to our 4 roommates after paying big bucks for rock star shows. What a nightmare, what a horror. I don't want no part of this. Just get me off this crazy ride. I'm gonna puke, I'm gonna piss. I'd rather kill myself. I'd rather just relax or not exist. But you said you want to do an email interview. Oh, what the heck, I can't resist. Hey mom, guess what? Today I did another magazine interview. Honey, that's great, you're really famous. Yeah, and I'm gonna be 42. I kind of thought I was gonna grow up to do stuff that would benefit humanity. But it's getting harder to tell if this artist's life is even benefiting me. Cause today I was gonna waste some time and money to remaster some stupid old album, and on the L train in the morning I was positive that I saw Will Oldham. He was wearing the same rock star sunglasses he had on stage at the Bowery Ballroom, and since I was feeling in need of answers, I just went right up and asked him. I said, Will, Bonnie, Prince, Palace, whatever, what do you think about it? Is it worth being an artist or an indie rock star, or are you better off without it? Because you know, maybe the world would be better if we were all just uncreative drones, no dead childhood dreams to haunt us, a decent job, a decent home. And if we have some extra time, we could do real things to promote peace, become scientists or history teachers or uncorrupt police at least. Come on, Will, you gotta tell me. I grabbed and shook him by the arm. The L train was leaving Bedford with 10,000 white 20-somethings crowded on. He opened his mouth to speak, but it was lost in the rumbling of the wheels. We were thrown together in a corner and I yelled, tell me man, for real, you're living comfortably, I assume, even if you're not quite a household name. You've reached a pretty high level of success and critical acclaim. And the L train got to First Avenue and a bunch of people piled out. I was staring into his sunglasses and I was really freaking out. I was like, Steve-O, Willie, Bonnie, Prince of all this shit, you're like the king of a certain genre, but even you must want to quit. Like if you hear a record by Bob Dylan or Neil Young or whatever, you must start thinking people like me, but I won't be that good ever. And then I'm sure the thing is, probably Dylan himself too stays up some nights wishing he was as good as Allen Ginsberg or Camus. And he's like, dude, I'm such a faker, I'm just a clown who entertains, and these fools who pay for my crap have pathetic, puny brains. And Camus probably wished he was Milton too, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So will you be straight with me now? This is just 2 on this train? Because I was gonna spend some time and money today to remaster some dumb old album, and I saw you here on the L train, and I was like, hey, is that Will Oldham? He must at least have some perspective, because it's like, living in this town, I get so confused and wound up and uptight, I just don't know up from down. Then we reached the last stop, and the subway was deserted. There was a long moment of silence, and I let go of his shirt. I started to think maybe I'd made some kind of big mistake. I tried to walk out onto the platform, but by then it was too late. His sunglasses seemed to grow darker, and still he hadn't even spoke. He just came right up behind me and put his hands around my throat and threw me down onto the concrete and kicked my face in with his boot and dragged me down onto the train tracks and tied my hands back with his coat. And I was slipping out of consciousness as he was slipping down my jeans, and he was punching me and humping me, and I slipped off into a dream, so it might have just been a delusion. But I thought I heard him say something like, "Artists are pussies." Then he climbed back up and ran away. So I lay there in the darkness on the train tracks, cold and broken. The hours passed and I thought, well, maybe I won't remaster that old album. Then I started thinking maybe it really wasn't even Will Oldham, even though he did hold my arms and fuck me just like Will sings in A Sucker's Evening. But whether it was him or wasn't, I couldn't forget the words he'd spoken. Artists are pussies like we're wusses, or we end up getting fucked, and other kinds of folks are dicks, tall, smart, and strong, and born to fuck us up. I know it sounds really terrible, awkward, sexist analogy, but at that moment, there on the train tracks, it made a lot of sense to me. Maybe it's just some kind of natural balance, like two types of mental gender that's gone on in all societies in one form or another. Like some dicks were born to conquer, I probably would if I could, but if I'm just a pussy, that's okay, because in a few months maybe I'll put out something good. I'll show you guys another story. People do ask me on occasion if I have any child-friendly, kid-appropriate comic books or albums, because I suppose on a superficial glance it would appear that I would be a family-friendly sort of act, and yet somehow it always turns into like somebody fucking a saxophone or something, and I always feel quite embarrassed whenever parents bring youngsters to shows or things like that. I was asked to be on a kids' TV show in Philadelphia, and I realized when you examine each thing, there's very little truly appropriate material for anybody under 30 or so. And I decided I needed to do at least one thing that would actually be kid-friendly. So here's my one, probably my, well, maybe not my only, but here's a, I don't know if there's any youngsters in the room, they've all fled by this point, but here's a kid-friendly film. He doesn't want to see it. It's too immature for the likes of that dude. Nobody fucks a saxophone in this one? I'm out of here. Time to smoke a cigarette. Once upon a time, there was an alien inventor who traveled down to Earth because it's where her research sent her. She was trying to perfect a special sparkling appliance that would benefit her planet, like all good and decent science. See, she came from one of space's very darkest outer places, where you could barely see your tentacles in front of your own faces. On Earth, she saw right off the bat, there often were some lights, some daytime or some moonbeams, or other ways to see the sights. That doesn't quite make sense, she thought. The place just seems so random. The sun is bright, my planet's dark, but Earth has both in tandem. Hoping to learn more, she parked her ship by some arcades, remembering to take her suntan lotion and some shades. She liked the way the daylight helped her see around the town, but just when she got used to it, the sun was going down. At night, she studied stars and flashlight bulbs and fireflies, but before she got them figured out, the sun began to rise. What a crazy planet, she thought, while resting in a park. How can they not get dizzy from all this dark, then light, then dark? Hey you, she asked two passers-by who happened to be staring. How do you deal with night and day? I mean, if you don't mind sharing. The owl and the kid replied, you're quite a creepy creature, but since you asked so nicely, we'll explain an earthling feature. The owl said, you see, a lot of earthlings sleep a lot. Like sometimes this kid's awake at night, but most nights he's mostly not. And the kid chimed in, some earthlings live nocturnally instead. Like this owl, they wake up at night while I'm fast asleep in bed. I guess that does explain some things, she thought when they had gone, and I've got some theories now to base my new machines upon. So returning home, she tested things until she had invented it, and then at a giant science fair she proudly first presented it. To you or me, a bit of light might seem like something cheap, but to creatures used to darkness, well, it put them right to sleep. And with sleep now part of every day's new dark and light routine, you could rest all of your eyes and let each one of your brains dream. So you can imagine how delightful to them these new things would be. It's a resource we all should share, she said, and she gave it out for free. So they paraded her to the Walk of Fame, where celebrities had pentacles. They poured some wet concrete so she could sign it with her tentacles. And though out on that planet, it's still the dark they mostly choose, it's still nice when you get tired to turn on some lights and take a snooze. Actually, while we're on the topic of kids and drawings and comic books and things, I'll show you guys a short presentation on how I got involved in all of this sort of stuff. For me, my life seems to have been totally altered by this one character that I encountered early in my youth when I was about 4. And that's the somewhat esoteric character of Rom Space Knight. This is Rom Space Knight issue number 1 from sometime in late 1979. And some Marvel comic nerd out there might know who drew that cover. But we'll talk about this afterwards. Rom was based on a toy which I wanted so badly when I was like 4 or 5 years old. The toy was instantly a total failure and taken off the market because it was created by the Parker Brothers board game company in an attempt to break into the toy market, and it just failed. It was like too unexciting and too expensive for what it actually was, and even though there were advertisements for the ROM toy in the comic book, it was kind of impossible to find it. I remember looking in a number of stores and never finding it ever. However, it must be said that the comic was infinitely more awesome than the toy. I mean, like, how awesome is that? He strikes from outer space and nothing can stop him. I mean, there's absolutely no comparison with how awesome that is to, like, that. So this comic book, even though I actually read my share of Spider-Man and Hulk and Batman, there was absolutely nothing that completely grabbed me like Rom Space Knight. It was the only comic that I had to have every issue of when I was 5 and 6, and I kind of just, was obsessed with Rom, and started drawing and started, wanting to make comic books when I grew up. And I started this tradition when I was a teenager. I thought I should recognize Rom as the inspiration for my drawings, and I would start every sketchbook with a drawing of me and Rom hanging out. So this is sort of me and sort of Rom hanging out in one of my teenage sketchbooks. And I also thought it would be a cool idea if I continued this tradition so that every single sketchbook that I have would start with a drawing of myself and Rom, so I could track my own artistic development over the years by comparing how the drawing would evolve. So here's another later one, which is also sort of me and sort of Rom. At this point, I'm sort of starting to learn how to use a brush to do some inking. And I started to get a whole lot better at drawing when I realized that if you just do it a whole lot, you'll get better at it, which for some reason took me about 20 years to figure out. But I just went through tons of sketchbooks in the 90s I got into this whole like transparent lettering thing. I used to do a lot of things like that. There's me and Rom hanging out on a sketchbook front page in 2001. We're hanging out in bed together. I'm dreaming about battling Rom on a primordial landscape. Rom is dreaming about playing in an acoustic psychedelic duo with me, like Tyrannosaurus Rex style. And we sort of just continued populating my sketchbook front pages over the years, and sometimes these would take the form of fake comic covers, including the UPC symbol. I always loved drawing UPC symbols. I think also some comic book nerd out there would be able to tell me what comics I've copied the UPC symbols from. That's like a few levels beyond knowing the illustrator of the cover of ROM #1. Frank Miller, by the way. But what issue was that UPC symbol copied from? It's probably like X-Men 132 or something. Anyway, here's some more me and Rom hanging out on a sketchbook. Lots of me, lots of Rom. Here's another one where I'm copying the cover of the first Spider-Man appearance, and I was trying to learn how they did the comic book lettering, and I got pretty good at the straight line stuff, but it's those curves that I just chicken out on inking, because you gotta get the curve guide just right, so a lot of the O's and G's I never ended up finishing inking. There's Rom and his sort of girlfriend Starshine. They're tempting me away from my happy, innocent life by ruining my life by getting me into comic books and drawing. There's me killing Rom in revenge, and Rom's yelling, "Jesus fucking Christ," as I kick him out of the helicopter, whatever that is. And then there's Rom killing me in retaliation. And there's a wide-angle one from, I was on tour in Norway in 2007. I really liked the way the lettering looked. The Norwegian, I don't know what that means, but there's more transparent lettering there. Always fond of the transparent lettering. There's more transparent lettering and more weird language stuff. I don't know what any of that means, but I thought it looked cool. And then that's the one that whoever made the poster for this gig seems to have copied that image from my website, and I should probably sue them or something, but that's alright. I bet they didn't think I would bust them like that. And I got into this whole thing the last few years where I've been getting into recreating some of my favorite comic books of all time. Like this guy, Daniel Clowes, had a comic in the 90s called Like a Velvet Glove Cast in Iron, and it's one of my favorite comics. And so Rom is from Galador, he's a Galadorian, so I figured I would do like a Galadorian cast in iron, and this is a copy of the Daniel Clowes illustration style. So here's an entire page of Like a Velvet Glove Cast in Iron that I've redrawn in a sketchbook from scratch, but inserted Rom as the main character. And here's a page of Watchmen, another one of my favorite comics of all time, that I've totally redrawn in a sketchbook from scratch and threw Rom in as the main character. And you learn a whole lot about illustration from copying this stuff. For instance, I was always like, thought everything was done with a brush, and I noticed that Dave Gibbons must use a pen to do a lot of those lines. Here's a page from Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, where I've replaced Batman the Dark Knight with Rom the Space Knight. Really weird and difficult to try to copy Frank Miller illustration, because the lines are so, they don't really make any sense, but the compositions are so beautiful with those vertical panels with the black and white silhouettes and then the horizontal panel. Oh, what a master. Too bad he's gone insane nowadays. But there's another Space Knight Returns image. And then finally, just like not that long ago, I decided I should fucking buy that ROM toy on eBay, no matter how much it cost me. I think it ended up costing me like $200 or something. But I do now own the ROM toy that I wanted for like 30 years. And I wish I had an end of this slideshow. I wish I had a picture of me holding the ROM toy, but that's the happy ending. And here's some of the sketchbooks where those drawings came from. And yeah, that's sort of like why I got into comic books, I guess. Why I got into music, I don't know. I guess just for the money. But comic books all goes back to ROM.